said Viola, gesturing to the laden cart. "I suppose it's a coven secret." "Or a good greenhouse and a clever gardener," said Poppy. "Truly, Poppy, I would have thought you'd be beside yourself with joy, given your preoccupation with the hall." Preoccupation, indeed. Poppy's clandestine visits to Netherford Hall had begun when she was but a child, and that was at an end now. Not even Viola knew. Before Poppy could say anything more, however, a figure disembarked from the largest carriage, eschewing help from the footman, and hopping down on a pair of impeccably shiny black boots. Even at this distance, Poppy could make out the figure's bright red hair, cut in a masculine fashion, and the strong nose. Well, no mistake. That had to be the Gentlewitch. She wore an impeccably tailored waistcoat and pantaloon combination, with a feathered hat and a long black velvet cape about her shoulders, trimmed in black fur. For a moment, the Gentlewitch turned her gaze away from the high towers of Netherford Hall and its myriad diamond-shaped glass windows, and down the slope toward where the young women sat peeking. Poppy could swear they locked eyes. But then Viola squealed and drew the curtains back, laughing. "Oh, I know what we must do. We must go to town, for surely there will be news, and we can hear all the gossip. Besides, you need a new ribbon for your hat." Poppy knew better than to argue with her sister, but then again never took much convincing to go to Miss Rawlings VJ's delightful shop. And if she had to look at her, out that window for one more second, she might actually go mad with envy. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a young Gentlewitch, in possession of great magical acumen and significant landholdings, is rarely in want of a wife. Yet that was not so for the Edith Rookwood, Gentlewitch of Netherford Hall. Liege Edith Rookwood, her young cousin Henry, and their uncle Auden Garcliffe were all that remained of the Rookwood coven, famed across the empire as necromancers and advisers. A coven, especially one of the high houses, typically held dozens of witches, relations, attendants, and servants. The Gentlewitch employed a major domo, an ancient position typically held by a non-magical male relation, who assisted in her extensive affairs. She would rely on her extended family and social connections to rise through the ranks, work for the good of England, potentially sit on the Coven Council at Parliament, and occasionally perform acts of arcane power. But Edith Rookwood had never been expected to rise to such a rank, and nor had her uncle, her major domo, been intended for his position. Theirs was truly a coven of one, for want of issue, for many years, and most recently by dint of tragedy. Were they a superstitious sort of folk, they might have ascribed this ill fortune as a curse. But neither Liege Rookwood nor Mr. Garcliffe saw the world in such a way. The Rookwood coven was known far and wide for a staunch kind of practicality. Difficult times were not ascribed any significance, for they were merely the result of living in the oft chaotic mortal world. Gentlewitches were not immortal, but they were preternatural, their power stemming from an ages-old pact between the now-vanished Fae and their legendary progenitor, Navia I. At least, it had only started to feel personal until about a year earlier, with the tragic fire at Hatchney House, the Rookwoods' primary residence in London. Lady Edith's mother, Georgina, and Georgina's sister Cassandra were lost, along with the servants, and the majority of the family's belongings, including a sizable wardrobe, and most heartbreaking.